Tonight, new video of the explosion that shook downtown Fort Worth. One man's harrowing escape.
I was scared for my life.
Hear his firsthand account and how he made it to safety.
Plus, new details emerging from the investigation. Why we still don't know the cause of the blast.
Plus, good news, it's going to warm up. Bad news, it's going to get cold. I'll tell you when.
And will the power stay on? We're talking to energy experts ahead of the cold blast. What you need to know.
You're watching NBC5 News at 10.
We begin with new developments in the hotel explosion in downtown Fort Worth. For the first time since the blast, hotel guests can now pick up their belongings.
Yes, but as the cleanup continues, the question of what caused the blast yesterday still looms. The explosion rocked downtown yesterday, injuring 21 people. We know at least one person is in critical condition at Parkland Hospital in Dallas. Also, at least 2 are still being treated at JPS in Fort Worth. Tonight, we're also hearing from someone who was inside the building at the time of the blast.
Meredith Yeomans is live at the scene for us. Meredith, what's the situation there right now?
Well, Brian, still a very active scene. The street is still blocked off around the hotel, and it'll probably stay that way through the end of the week. Cadaver dogs were used inside the hotel today, and officials say they are now confident there was no one else inside. Heart-pounding moments caught on camera of a man stuck on the second floor after the Sandman Signature Hotel explosion.
I'm going, what do I do?
Meet that man.
I was scared for my life.
He is attorney Mark Montgomery, and he just checked into the hotel about a half hour before the blast.
Sometimes you go, I think I'm going to go play the lotto tomorrow or something, because I feel very fortunate.
Montgomery was in his room on the top floor.
I heard this loud rumble. Then I looked out my window and I saw smoke and debris rising. Now, I was on the 21st floor.
He says he made his way down a pitch black stairwell until he arrived at the second floor.
And there's debris everywhere.
And was helped down by a firefighter on a ladder.
And I get down and I was so grateful. It's like when people kiss the ground when they get to the land.
Overnight, he says firefighters brought him medication and a laptop he'd left behind. Tonight, luggage retrieved from rooms was available for guests to pick up.
This building is imminently not going to collapse, and it's safe to continue working in.
Investigators say 2 stories of the hotel collapsed into the basement, flinging doors and debris into the streets.
The fact that no one was killed is a miracle.
Today, cleanup began of a complex scene that's now under a microscope. Investigators said today that they have found no evidence that this was an intentional act. Now, in the morning out here on the scene, they'll begin the process of boarding up the hotel and securing it. We should also mention that hotel guests who had to leave their belongings behind can retrieve their luggage once again here in Fort Worth at the Zipper building. That's on West 13th Street. That's starting at 7 a.m. Back to you.
Meredith, thank you. We also have that information online for people who will need it. Also, the Sandman Signature Hotel released a new statement today saying, in part, our primary focus is supporting those who have been impacted, as well as the safety and well-being of staff, guests, and the local community. Officials are also still investigating whether gas is to blame here. Our Ali Spilliard joining us now tonight. Ali, you spoke with experts who say this is a complex process.
It is, Brittany, and that's because there are lots of parts and pieces and people involved. Even late tonight, there is an Atmos crew here on the scene working. The city tells us that they are here to make sure this was not a pressure issue on their end. Just one piece of what the experts say is going to be a very extensive investigation.
24 hours after an explosion rocked downtown Fort Worth, the race is on to determine the cause. But thus far, officials say the evidence is inconclusive.
Obviously, there was natural gas involved. We do not know if gas caused the explosion or the explosion caused the gas problem.
But if a control is on, we're in a big building, but over several hours' time, you could get enough gas in here to blow up the building.
At Goodson Engineering, Mark Goodson studies catastrophes like this one. Today, he says investigators are likely examining every possible gas connection.
You spray it with a soapy water solution.
Looking for leaks bubbling at a loose joint,
And they will check all the connections to make sure there's no leak.
which he demonstrated on a piece of commercial kitchen equipment in his lab.
It can be a big job. Sometimes they're quite easy. Sometimes the problems are quite obvious, and sometimes the material has to be harvested and taken to a laboratory.
Having worked similar cases, Attorney John Joe says after determining cause, investigators will look to establish fault.
You know, it could be an appliance, it can be piping, it can be, pipes on the Atmos end of the deal, pipes on the owner's end of the deal.
It's a process both say could take weeks, if not months, as the focus downtown turns from making sure everyone is safe to making sure it doesn't happen again.
Today, Fort Worth Fire told us that they did not receive any calls about the smell of gas prior to this explosion happening, though we know from people here on the scene yesterday that people talked about smelling it in the aftermath. That's why those officials and the experts I spoke with emphasized just how important it is for anyone who ever notices the smell of gas to report it. Brian.
Yeah, and that was an interesting demonstration. Thank you, Allie. Allie Spilliards in Fort Worth for us tonight. New video shows the moment the explosion rocked downtown Fort Worth. Right there. This is the lobby of the O'Hanlon, Demarest, and Castillo Law Office, right across from the Sandman Signature Hotel. NBC5's Keenan Willard is downtown where businesses are still being affected, right, Keenan?
Brian, they are, and mainly here in what's being called the hot zone behind us on Houston Street, a stretch several blocks long in front of the Sandman Signature Hotel that's going to be shut off, according to the fire department, for at least the next several days, with potential impacts as well to the start of the annual stock show and rodeo. A flash of light outside the window. The force of the blast shaking this building in downtown Fort Worth. This is the moment an explosion rocked the nearby Sandman Signature Hotel Monday afternoon.
We didn't really know what happened. It looked like a bomb. It was essentially something very similar to that.
Joseph Curry lives and works downtown. What the? And was turning the corner when he saw this. Houston Street covered in debris from the explosion, and two people bloodied from the impact being helped by first responders.
There was a gentleman being helped by a police officer away from the scene there. He was kind of bloodied up. It was pretty rough looking.
With investigators continuing to search and clean up the area, the fire chief says this part of downtown could remain shut off for several days. Curry was kept out of his building until last night and is now thinking of the lingering impact for business owners.
The bottom of my building is nothing but, businesses, and none of them are able to work today. So nobody's earning a paycheck right now.
More collateral damage, plans for the opening weekend of the annual Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo. Saturday morning's parade route was set to come through this part of Houston Street. In a statement, the stock show says, "Our hope is that the parade will occur as planned while recognizing the importance of the ongoing investigation of the incident and the need to ensure the safety of parade spectators and participants. We will notify the participants and the public as soon as decisions are made regarding the parade." So we know at this point, city leaders say that tomorrow they're going to be meeting with event organizers to talk through whatever changes may need to take place. We'll share those updates as soon as they come in from the city of Fort Worth or from the stock show. Brian.
All right, Keenan Willard also for us in Fort Worth tonight. Thank you, Keenan. We've just given you a lot of information, so we have put it all online. We'll also be keeping an eye on any new developments and update you on air and at NBCDFW.com.
Let's get a check of the weather now with Rick. Rick, thankfully, the gusty winds, they've died down, which we really needed. But now it looks like we're going to be on a roller coaster with the temperatures.
A January roller coaster, some nice days and some not so nice days.
Maybe the coldest?
Yes, of the year so far, coming. Last night at this time, we had 60-mile-an-hour winds. Now we have winds that are about 3 miles an hour. And when you get a light wind night and a clear night, temperatures start to go down. You can have a big temperature range from 40 in Rockwall to 29 in Terrell, 31 Arlington, but 37 at DFW. And those temperatures will kind of hold in the low to mid 30s tomorrow morning. But look at tomorrow afternoon. Oh, glory. Highs will be in the 60s. It'll be even warmer on Thursday. So a nice warm up coming up. Then a Thursday night cold front. That'll chill us down for Friday, but an even bigger one. Yep, an Arctic cold front comes in here late Saturday or Sunday. That will be the coldest air of the year. In fact, it just might be the coldest air we've seen in about 3 years. We'll tell you how cold and how long it'll stick around when I come back.
All right. You know, those are some key words there, Rick. So we're going to be keeping an eye on this for sure. Thank you. Of course, as we get closer to that big temperature drop, we're talking to energy experts about what you should expect as officials keep an eye on the state's power grid. We will have much more for you from the experts in about 7 minutes. Tonight, the Dallas skyline is lit up in yellow. This is in honor of former Congresswoman Bernice Johnson. Family, friends, and some of the biggest names in politics took time to celebrate her remarkable life today. And that includes her longtime friend and former president, Bill Clinton.
I'm so thankful that I had the chance to get to know her, to get to work with her, and to become her friend.
And while there were many well-known people in attendance today, her grandson summed up Johnson's life very well.
But she had just the best way of being so fierce, but also so feminine. So powerful, but yet dainty. And she is the pure epitome of class and elegance.
Johnson died on New Year's Eve. She was 89 years old.
Johnson's life was an inspiration to so many. At the funeral today, NBC5's Ken Kaltoff spoke with community leaders who say the late Congresswoman helped guide them into a life of service.
Visitors wore heavy coats to the Concord Church funeral, but did not let cold weather chill praise for Bernice Johnson or what she helped accomplish for all of Dallas in Congress.
DFW Airport, the whole DART system, the Calatrava bridges, so many things that we admire and we rely on today are because of Bernice Johnson.
Long before her decades in Washington, Johnson built lifelong relationships and mentored future leaders.
And I think about meeting her when I was president of the student body at the University of Texas at Arlington, and continuing to get encouragement from her.
Royce West holds the state Senate seat Bernice Johnson once held and fought to create. West joined former Dallas Mayor and U.S. Trade Representative Ron Kirk eulogizing her. Kirk first met state lawmaker Johnson when he was a teenager through Johnson's friendship with Kirk's mother.
You bring your A game, you prepare yourself, and you put others' interests ahead of yourself, and you can get it accomplished. And I think that's why you see the auditorium filled with the breadth of people from not just politics, but law and education, so many that she mentored and inspired.
The National Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority leader says their sister, Bernice Johnson, was a trailblazing example as a nurse even before politics.
That she broke grounds for others. She not only helped, she helped pull them up so that others could be successful, which is very important in this world.
A funeral celebrating life of Bernice Johnson. In Dallas, Ken Kaltoff, NBC5.
After the funeral, Johnson's body was taken to Austin, where she will be buried tomorrow at the Texas State Cemetery. Coming up, much colder weather expected to come our way. The message from ERCOT and what one expert is saying about the strength of the power grid.
Then a potential distraction before the Cowboys playoff opener. The key members of the franchise who are being pursued by other teams.